Patchwork Heart Ministry and Fiat Ministry Network invite you to discover your mission, a brand new in-depth monthly video series featuring engaging Catholic speakers who will challenge you to live your life abundantly. For only $25 a month, you will receive a personal monthly mission, including 3 full-length inspirational talks that build upon a new theme each month. Sign up for the Discover Your Mission tier at patreon.com/patchworkheartministry today.
Fiat Ministry Network and Patchwork Heart Ministry present Journeys in Faith. Now, here's Andy Santis.
Hi, and welcome to Journeys in Faith here on this Friday evening. This is Andy Santis. And once again, I have an amazing guest. I am so excited that I have Catholic author and mother and wife, and also of 8 children. And her name is Erin Broestl. So I welcome you, Erin. Thank you so much for joining us on Journeys in Faith.
Thank you, Ann. It's fun to be here.
Yeah, it really is. You were a guest also on the podcast with Bill Snyder and I on Sowing Hope some months ago. And I just want to encourage our audience here that if you want to learn even more about Erin, you can also go to Patchwork Heart Ministry on YouTube and listen to the podcast. But you're going to learn a lot about her right here on this show on Journeys in Faith on this Friday evening. So I also would like to give our audience here your website. Yeah, there's 2 that they can learn about you. One is 8hobbits.com. I'm sure that at some point our producer will put that up on the screen. And the other one is perpetuallightpublishing.com. So they're the 2 websites to learn about Erin Broestl. So let's start with you and your beginnings. Tell us a little bit about your upbringing and then getting married and having your children and where that led to in your life.
I was raised Episcopalian. My mother was an Episcopalian Sunday school teacher, and my dad was Catholic. So we had kind of a mixed upbringing where we'd go to church with both of them. But my brother and I primarily went with my mother. And then in the, this would be late 80s, early 90s, my mom and I started discerning together that we should leave and find another church to go to. So we both became Catholic the same year. I was 19. And then I met my husband. I didn't meet him until I was 21 and he was 20, and he was Lutheran, and his father's a Lutheran deacon now. So we come from very mixed denomination backgrounds, but Kent became Catholic after our first daughter was born. So he went through RCIA, and then we just grew in our faith journey together, which is a wonderful thing. I had a little bit of a head start on him, but we've done a lot of things together over the years, and having the same friends and getting into homeschooling and having one baby at a time, and then another one and then another one. That's a particular challenge. Just like every mother or every person has challenges. It's a challenge to only have one child. It's a challenge to have none. We were given the challenge of, oh, guess what? You're super fertile. You can have more kids. So it's a nice thing to be able to grow together in faith, or, at various times we have different journeys, but my husband and I go to church together, take all the kids together. That's the best thing ever. Let's see, what else? So marriage, kids, what's the next question?
Yeah, life goes on, and you are a successful mother and wife. And by that, I mean that you are deeply committed to your family and have sacrificed much with your 8 children and homeschooling and just being an overall great mother. So I just congratulate you for that. I myself homeschooled, and I understand that is a challenge. It's a beautiful challenge though. And so it's always a pleasure for me to host people on this show that are homeschoolers. And so thank you. Yeah. So maybe you could tell us then, from the point in your life, when did the love of writing come about?
I've liked to write since I was a very little girl. I wrote stories, and my brother and I were one of those who used to perform plays. We performed in the Christmas pageant every year in the Episcopalian church, and I've always liked fiction. I like nonfiction as well, but I'm really a fiction fan, and I read obsessively as a child. This was before the age of the internet, for those of you who wonder. I'm a Gen Xer from the 80s, and so we didn't have internet. We read books. We would check out like 20 books at a time from the library. That was a typical summer week for us. So learning how to read early. My mother loves to read too, so being a mom and helping your kids learn how to read is one of the greatest joys, to see them when they finally get it, and then when they finally get excited about a subject. And it may not be the subject that you're interested in, but with each child it's a different thing. One of my sons is very into cars, and I was never into cars before, and now we read lots about cars, and everything from monster trucks to Ferraris to everything in between. So I'm learning lots about cars. But it was a good childhood. I wrote a lot of stories in school, and I like to act a little bit, so I dabbled in theater and choir and poetry and all those English things, and the power of words, the beauty of words. It really kind of soaked into me early. So that was my childhood. I went to public school all the way through, by the way. I should mention that. My husband was public and private school because his family was in the Air Force, so they moved a lot. And then when we were dating, we both decided we wanted to at least try homeschooling. So one of us was going to stay home with the kids, and we've both taught them various subjects at various times, and that's been good too.
Yeah, it's fun to see how that develops. You have 8 children, so you've been able to see how that develops and how God made each of us so different, right? I mean, even with the same 2 parents, you can have such a variation of gifts and talents. Hear those words a lot in the Catholic Church about gifts and talents. So you're able to see that firsthand. I'm sure that's an amazing thing for you to do. Tell us about your kids. I'd love to hear their names and ages for our audience, especially, some of their friends might be watching. I'd love to hear a little bit about them.
That's true. I could talk about my kids all day, but I'll try to keep it brief. So our oldest is Moira. She's 19. She's at school at Michigan Tech University up in Houghton, Michigan, and she's studying computer engineering. And she wants to get into hardware for robotics, for underwater robotics. She's a scuba diver. My parents taught her how to dive, and she's done wreck diving and night diving and all kinds of crazy stuff.
Amazing.
So she has a real aptitude for math and computers, like her dad. And her friends are very different. She has one good friend who's going to be a nurse, and another one who's going to be a cantor and an organist, and she's studying sacred music. So this is an interesting group of girls that we've had the privilege to watch grow up. And then my second oldest is Henry. He's 16. He's a tap dancer. He's a really good tap dancer. And he's very interested in computer games and designing them. So writing the dialogue, doing the coding, adding in some music, doing some editing. He is multi-talented. I don't know what to do with this kid. But we are just encouraging him to be all that he can be, as they say. And he has some fun friends too. And the third child is Bronwyn. She's 15. She is my artist violin player. She was a ballet dancer until she hurt her knee. She dislocated it 3 times and just had to have knee surgery. Ooh. But she's doing better. She's doing much better with physical therapy, so that's good. And she is a beautiful drawer, dancer, violin player. Really, and she's a good big sister to the other little kids, because I still have many little kids at home. So Bronwyn is my hero right now. And then Gwenny is 12, Guinevere. Kent and I both came home on the same day and said, "What about Guinevere for a name?" And we both just kind of freaked out, like, no way. But we're both English fans and Arthur Legend fans, and it just seemed like a very beautiful name. So we went with that.
It really is. I love
know
all the names so
backstory, the
far. I
tragic
love all the
backstory.
names.
Mhm. I know the tragic backstory about Guinevere too, so that's
Mm.
the sad thing. But we're hoping our little ray of sunshine here will have a good life. She's a flute player. She plays flute. She used to dance as well before we moved. We had a big move 3 years ago, and some of the kids had to face the upheaval of that and COVID. And she likes to draw as well. She's multi-talented. Then the next one down is Rona. Gwen and Rona are only 17 months apart. So Rona 10 to 11, and she's my athlete. She's a little taller than Gwen, and she's a big girl. Like there's no sport this child can't touch. She can rollerblade, she can ice skate. She and Gwenny are doing taekwondo together. She's built like a blonde volleyball player from California. She is, but of course, she's also very deep. She's my lawyer child who likes to cook. I'm sure she's going to have more to say. Right? She argues about absolutely everything, and she's always right. So then there's Huey. Huey just had his first communion, by the way. Anybody listening, please say a prayer for him.
Congratulations.
It was a beautiful day on Saturday. Thank you.
Beautiful.
He's 8, so second grade. He's finishing up second grade. He's my car obsessed child, and he builds with Legos, and I let him take things apart. He's like Steven Spielberg blowing up Cherry's Jubilee in his mother's microwave. Can I try this? Vacuum? No, not today, dear. Let me buy you a vacuum from Goodwill that you can take apart. So we buy him things from Goodwill. I do. I just go there and I buy like a $3 VCR and let him take it apart. He's starting to be able to put things back together at age 8. So for you mothers out there or who have this mechanically minded child, don't worry, the destruction will end someday. We'll take apart literally everything and build with Legos. Legos are my friend right now. I wear shoes around the house so I don't step on them. Legos. Every parent knows that, right?
And the vacuum has probably met them too.
Right. Huey, and then Annika. Annika is our youngest daughter. She is 6. She's my little sweetie. She's very bright. I can't take credit for that. That's a God thing. Everybody says, "Oh, your children are so bright." Well, I guess yes. Perhaps I should have her test for I don't know. She likes to draw. This morning she was doing handwriting with a particular set of tools. There's invisible ink handwriting that you can do with your children, by the way. They're really cool. You can buy these books that have channels that they draw in, and then the ink disappears and they can do it again. It's a brilliant idea. So that's fun. She's doing that, and she likes to play in the garden, and she likes to do sports. She's very big into ice skating right now. Every time we get just for fun, we go ice skating with her. And she's the youngest daughter. And then my littlest is Hans, and he is 3, soon to be 4. He was born on July 4th. Yay!
Oh, July 4th.
July 4th, baby. His red hair. He's the youngest of 8, and he's the only one with flaming hair. He's a fucker, like they say, on the 4th of July. He's a happy little guy. He likes Thomas trains.
Oh,
we're all about the trains right now.
So beautiful.
So
thank you. Yeah, I would love to even personally know more about your family, because I just love to hear about how they're all growing and getting to do God's will in their lives, no matter how old they are, right? And that's part of being a writer too, is that you are helping to develop their faith. And I'm sure that's been a gift for you as a mother, just being able to watch that happen right before your eyes. And also as an author, right? You're taking it that step further by being a Catholic author, that you're really and truly evangelizing to other families. So
that's right. That's a privilege. That's a real privilege. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is.
Yep. And my kids give me lots of inspiration for ideas too.
So may I ask, and now I think I know the answer, because I have other friends that are homeschooling mothers of large families. How do you make it all happen every day with balancing everything that you do? Because, you have older children, you have younger ones, and now you're also, of course, an established author that is, busy. You're busy with everything that you do. So how do you balance everything? Any suggestions for our audience who's watching and thinking, boy, I wish I could do so much?
I don't want to push anything on anybody or, give unwanted advice. I think my one piece of advice I have is to try to teach your kids how to be independent as early as possible, which is good in general, even if you weren't homeschooling. But when they're old enough to hold a sponge, and I read this as a young mom, I read this somewhere. They can hold on, have them mop a section of the floor for you. When they can chop up vegetables, give them a little tiny paring knife and let them help you in the kitchen. When they can set the table, they obviously should be setting the table. No, I make all my kids start folding their own laundry at age 5, or I would never get anything done in this house. 10 people, so much laundry. I counted actually recently, I do something like 35 to 36 loads of laundry a week. It's a lot. So they have to fold their own stuff because I will wash it for them. I clean up messes and I do all the things, but I will hand them the bucket and say, here, fold it. You get it back in your drawer, so it has to be folded. And we teach them how to do that very young, and how to help with cleaning up messes very young. The dustbuster is handy. You know, a 3-year-old can operate a dustbuster, you guys. So teach them that. If you show them like every day for a week, after a week, they know it and you don't have to show them anymore. And my 10-year-old can now clean the potties, which is handy. My 12-year-old can mop the floor. We just kind of rotate chores and we do things. So how to get stuff in a regular school day is we have set times for things. Like we try to start school by 9 o'clock every morning. My younger ones and I usually do prayer time, math. Math has to be done in the morning because by the time you get to the afternoon and that post-lunch kind of tiredness, they just can't focus. Math in the morning, that's another good tip. So math, handwriting, English, Bible. Usually we can get those things done in the morning. And then in the afternoon, we have time for spelling, history, and necessarily every single day. Art, we do art and music, and the older kids have music lessons or dance lessons, so they get a lot of art in. And the older kids, the high schoolers, are now doing some online classes that I'm not responsible for. They have a teacher, they have a great teacher actually for history, composition, literature, and an elective. He's taking a film elective this year. So he grades their tests, helps with the writing. I don't have to do any of that. And they do math on their own or with me or my husband, mostly my husband. I can do math up to about 7th grade. And then I'm like, nope, let's hire that out, or my husband can help them. And they're very independent workers. And Brown, for example, is 9th grade this year. She's got Japanese computer. She's doing Pimsleur Japanese. She's actually learning how to speak it, which is and write it. And there's 3 different Japanese alphabets. I didn't know that, by the way. 3 different ones you have to learn Japanese. And then she does violin every day. She does her physical therapy. She does math. She does science reading on her own. She does the online classes. So that is how I maintain my sanity. You cannot do it all.
Mm-hmm. It's great advice.
Only at certain times.
It's good advice for life, actually, isn't it? Because if you think about it, no matter what stage you are in life, whether you are a younger person who's below the age of 18, whether you are the young adult, whether you're the mom of either 1 to 10, 15 kids, I mean, it doesn't matter, or whether you are an older, middle-aged to older adult who's maybe an empty nester or whatever, it doesn't matter. This is great advice about not to burden yourself with too much all on your own, and get help when you need it.
Right.
So I think that's excellent advice, especially for moms and families raising kids.
And right now I'm at the stage of my life too. This year has been crazy. I spend a lot of time in the car. So we drive. And so when we drive, when we can, we try to read. I have the kids take their school books with them. We do car school. This is definitely a year for car schools. We've had a lot of medical appointments, physical therapy appointments, things like that. Or we're taking the older kids who can't drive yet to their activities, and I bring a couple little ones with me, and it's busy. It is busy, but I try to pace myself, and also try to give myself time every night where I get to do what I want to do, and that's where the writing comes in and the editing. And I have a couple hours usually a day, but I try to make. Last night, for example, I edited for an hour after everybody went to bed, and I have my quiet time, and I get to sit down on my computer. Okay, I'm reading this, I'm looking up this, I'm researching this, let's do it. And I got 2 chapters of them done, so yay. It's amazing what you can do in only 10 minutes of time. If you give yourself 10 minutes and then another 10 minutes and then an hour, sometimes I do give up a lot of things. Sometimes there's been times in life I had to go exercise. I had physical therapy, so then I would be more about the exercise, or I would do a little bit of reading time. I try to read for fun every day too, even if it's only for 5 minutes. Sometimes it's a lot more than 5.
That's good advice
in
too.
the middle of a good book. But Yeah, do something that you like to do. If you like to knit, do it every day. If you like to garden, do it every day that you can. That's what keeps us parents of many sane. You have to have something to call you your own. And I knew this even when I had one child. I thought to myself, I have to have part of my brain that's not devoted to diapers. And, as cute as they are, it's hard to spend all day, every day with small children. So you have to give yourself breaks. And I see a lot of mothers asking that right now on Facebook, like, how do I do this? I have two small children. I'm in messes all day. It's driving me crazy. I have no help. I have no family in the state. Now, how do I do this? Well, the best thing is to find some help, and don't give up until you find something. Like, we went to a church for a little while in our early marriage where literally everybody had their own family and nobody wanted to be our babysitter. Nobody really introduced themselves. It was very cold. It was actually a very cold church. And after a while, we thought, okay, this is not working. Go someplace else. I made a lot of friends with homeschoolers and with other veteran moms who were doing it, because I've been homeschooling for 16 years, way before COVID, you guys. So I went to other moms' houses and they would have an open house and say, come and see, watch how we do this homeschooling thing. And I would go. I probably went to 5 different other families' houses to watch how they did things. And I thought to myself, I can do this. I just have to give myself something that's my own and devote myself to my kids. And I always wanted to do that. So I have the benefit of wanting to be a mom. It is my vocation. I knew I was going to be a mom. I hoped, like when I was 7. So I never wanted to be a nun ever, even when I was an Episcopalian. There's not very many Episcopalian nuns that you hear about either, but I never wanted to do that. So I am in my calling right now, and it is the best feeling in the world.
Yeah, and it's your primary vocation, life, and joy. And I'm sure that the writing that you do, that's another vocation, but perhaps it's more of that original vocation of your baptismal call that you're evangelizing, through that baptismal call to holiness and to extending out to people aside from your family through this writing that you're doing. Now you're affecting your family too with this writing. I'm sure your kids love your books and the things that you've done so far, and they probably are very proud of you in your publishing.
I hope so. Most of them are too young to tell me that yet, but I hope someday they understand that I did that for them. And that's another thing too about women with multiple vocations. Like, they kind of do have to work in tandem, because if you're constantly trying to battle yourself, I mean, I can't imagine, but if you're a biochemist, but your kids need you or they're very artsy and it just seems like you're constantly at odds with yourself, that's a hard thing. That's something that for the younger moms, you might want to think about a little bit, because if it's really working against your family, then it's not good for anybody. Mine is nice because it dovetails with reading books to my children, teaching them how to read, teaching them English every day, and working on it. And I can do it together. I don't have to I couldn't take, 40 hours a week away from my kids. That would not work for me at all.
Yeah, I can understand that, because I did the same thing and was home. So personally, I understand. And I think you're giving advice that is great for not just moms, but also just for anybody, because these are great pieces of advice to help you to be able to step back a little bit and say, you know what, I have a vocation. I need to do that. I need to be a part of it, but I also need to be able to find the ways that I can be most healthy, mind, body, and spirit as well. You got to have that too. So I just congratulate you on being able to balance all that you do. Thanks for those pieces of advice that you've given us. Now, for the second half of the show, we're almost ready for commercial break already. We're going to talk a lot about your writing. But before we do that, I just want to make that invitation to our audience to go to your website again at 8hobbits.com. Tell us about that one particular book that I think that people are going to definitely want to check out, buy, and review.
So my first children's book is called God Made the Moonlight. It's a read aloud for ages 0 to 5. It's a perfect book for grandparents or parents to read their kids at night. It's kind of like the Catholic version of Goodnight Moon. And it's beautifully illustrated by my friend Jeannie Egolf. And her art is more watercolor and ethereal and beautiful. And it's a lot prettier art than a lot of the books I'm seeing lately. As usual, things that are very abstract and kind of ugly, frankly. So getting back to the beauty and the simplicity of childhood, it's a travel story where a little girl goes to visit her grandparents over the summer and sees all the different phases of the moon and aspects of the moonlight. And she's really kind of pondering that connection to nature and that connection to God, who's always watching over her, just like she's always seeing the moon at night. So it's a sweet story. And it can be found on 8 Hobbits. You can buy it from perpetuallightpublishing.com. And do buy it, please leave me a review because I really need some Amazon reviews. Any author will know about Amazon rankings, and you have to get to 20 and then you have to get to 100. And if you don't have enough reviews of your book, they bury it. So please leave me a review. Thank you.
Oh yeah, that's great to know. Well, I haven't done it yet, but you're going to get one today on this day of taping. We're taping this on May 11th.
Thank you.
And it's airing on the 14th, this coming Friday. So this show is pre-recorded. So again, that's an invitation to go and purchase and also do a review for God Made the Moonlight, and go to Amazon.com and look for Erin Broestl. And you can see how her name is spelled right here on the screen. So we do have to take a short break, and we'll be right back here on Journeys in Faith. Hi, my name is Ann DeSantis, and I'm the director for the St. Raymond Nonatus Foundation for Freedom, Family, and Faith. You can learn about us on our website at nonatus.org. I'm here to tell you today about 2 great podcasts that I hope that you will tune in. The first Tuesday of every month at 8 o'clock, we have a podcast specifically for Catholics affected by divorce. From 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern, go to Philly Nonatus on YouTube to subscribe. In addition, we also have a podcast the last Thursday of every month. That's also at 8 o'clock Eastern Time for 1 hour. And that one is for families in crisis. We have some really great guests coming up soon, so hope to see you then. Please also consider the fact that you can make spiritual direction appointments with us with our spiritual moderator. All you need to do is go to our website on the contact form and just reach out to us. We'd be happy to hear from you and look forward to setting up an appointment. So would love to connect with you. Please share this video and let people know that we're there for families affected by divorce and also families in crisis. Thank you.
Patchwork Heart Ministry and Fiat Ministry Network present the Discover Your Mission series.
Now, I had been brought up without any prayer, without Bible, without church, nothing of that kind. And so when my father died, I became suicidally depressed. I had no desire to live. And yet, by the grace of God, whenever I got to the point of actually taking my life, I always had this interior conviction that if I took my life, I would simply find it again on the other side, and it would be permanent misery.
But it wasn't until I became a wife and a mother, and I began to try and pass my faith on to my children, that I realized that everything I knew about Jesus was memorized doctrine.
I was a good man, I was a good father, I was instilling the sacraments into my family. I was definitely not intentional. I was stuck roped to my faith.
But what kind of strength did he have? Jackie did not just have a strength of body or baseball skill. He had a strength inside of his spirit, a courageous meekness that empowered him to play the game.
And I tell him what is going on with me, and he's like, oh, okay. And I'm like, no, I think this is like some sort of miracle, dude. And he's like, okay, of course, but I'll believe it when I see it. Honey, you've been trying to quit, and you've been saying this and saying that, and I'm, his big line to me is, you shouldn't say things, because I never follow through on them. And so this was week after week, month after month. He is looking at me like, this is a miracle. There is no way that you, on your own, could have done this.
Christians. We are called to sing. All of us are called to sing. All of us are called to express ourselves and join our voice into the unity of the church. Often with my choirs, I ask them to listen to each other, to listen to the sound that they make together as one. That's what we're aiming for. Through the harmony or unison, we're aiming for a one sound.
You need to decide. What are you going to participate in? Are you going to participate in the historic Christian idea of the altar of sacrifice, which is in the Eucharist, or not?
Welcome back to Journeys in Faith here on this Friday evening with my wonderful guest, Erin Broestl. She is a wife, mother, and a Catholic author. She is the author of the book called God Made the Moonlight. And right before we had our commercial break, we were telling you how you could get that book. And that's by going to Amazon.com. And you can purchase it. She's also looking for reviews. So if you could also review that book after you've bought it, it's a great book for children, young children. And also, again, her website is 8hobbits.com. And you can learn more about her also at perpetuallightpublishing.com. So I thought, Erin, I forgot to read your bio. So I do want to read that bio, and then maybe we can unpack a little bit more about your life, faith, and mission. Is that Erin Broestl is a wife, mother to 8 beautiful children, and an author. She's also the editor-in-chief of Perpetual Light Publishing, a new Catholic venture that brings together the best writers, editors, and graphic designers. Erin has contributed to the Catholic Textbook Project, the Peanut Butter and Grace blog, and Diplomatic Corps Department of Envoy magazine. God Made the Moonlight is her first book. In between toddler messes, she enjoys reading, skiing, and swimming. Her articles and book reviews can be found at 8hobbits.com. So I'm glad we read that, because there's some things there that I'd love to talk about a little bit more. Now, you're the editor-in-chief of Perpetual Light Publishing. And we have another friend that we've interviewed on Sowing Hope podcast, which is Jeannie Goff. I want to say hello and thank you for introducing me to Erin. So tell us about, how did that collaboration begin, and what is it like to be the editor-in-chief?
It's great. It's a real joy of my life to be able to read Catholic books and help people with their stories. And right now I'm working on a book by Janine's with the Face that will come out later this year or next year, we hope. And we've done the story editing of it, and now we're going back to copying. So it's an ongoing project, but this is a book for 9 to 12-year-olds. It's an adventure story. Especially boys will like it, I think. It's about a little Hebrew boy who wants to meet Jesus, and he wants to be a treasure hunter. And he's living around the time of Jesus' death and resurrection. And a bit of a journey story with Roman boys and soldiers, and it's very exciting. And he meets a little girl with leprosy. That's very touching. And there's so many good things. And in that, I don't want to give away the ending of the book, but he does meet Mother Mary and John. And I mean, there's just not very many stories like this. It's like National Treasure meets Indiana Jones meets, Catholic adventure story for kids. So I'm very excited about that, as you can probably tell.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things I'm working on right now. And it's fun being at the point of my life where I am doing what I want to do, and I am reading what I want to read. When I worked for Envoy magazine, I got to read some of the most brilliant Catholic authors there are, like Patrick Madrid and Dr. Peter from Boston College and Father Andrew Apostoli, and that was a joy too. So God just keeps throwing me challenges, and I keep trying to live up to them. And so that's kind of where we are with that.
Yeah, you do so much.
With COVID, it's been hard too. It's been hard with COVID to get people working together to find help and everything like that. So it's a challenge for those, who can't do conferences, they can't do book signing, they can't even go to the library in some states. Here, I think half of our libraries are open now and half of them are closed. It's kind of a challenge, so hang in there.
Yeah, that's right.
Author
That's
like
right.
me,
That's
or
good advice. Hang in there, because, here we are in May of 2021. And from what I've heard and read, I think that things are going to probably start to become a lot more, quote, normal by summertime and the fall. And hopefully, as time progresses, we will be seeing a lot more, quote, normalcy, right? But we'll see what happens with that.
God willing.
God willing. Now, there is something you mentioned in your bio, the Catholic Textbook Project and the Peanut Butter and Grace blog. Tell us about that too, about those two things that you're involved with.
The Catholic Textbook Project is a fast group of people who are doing history books for K through 8th grade, and I've had the privilege to work on several of them. For example, they're doing one book per section of the United States. So there's a Great Lakes book, and I'm from the Great Lakes. It was a great joy to work on that book. And then there's a Midwestern one, and the Southern States one, and there's a New England book, and they are really, really good. I'm trying to get my kids interested in them as well. And it's like a traditional textbook, except everybody says, well, what's the difference between a Catholic textbook and a regular textbook? The regular textbooks, since I used to work for McGraw-Hill, this is how I know, regular textbooks are done by about 75 different authors and editors. It is kind of death by committee. So a lot of different opinions, different outlooks. Most of them are secular, almost none of them are Christian. Catholic textbook is going to approach history very factual based, dates, times, but from a Catholic history perspective, because the role of faith in people's lives is so important. You cannot separate faith and civics, because every person, all of us, hopefully we vote, we go to church, member our community, we volunteer. That is all tied up in our Catholic history. And they don't sugarcoat it, by the way, you guys. It isn't all glowing Catholic history like we can do no wrong. No, this is what really happened. An example would be the Aztecs, right? And the Spanish. The Spanish were Catholic, but they were brutal. There were some brutal soldiers when they came over at the Aztecs. But they were horrified by the Aztecs sacrificing human children. So that was a real conflict of a lot of things, conflict of interest. And the seniors sort of to war with the Aztecs for that particular issue. And there's a lot there in history. It's not glossed over. It's not sugar-coated. If you're going to teach the kids about groups of people, you have to teach them what people did right and what they did wrong. And you have to have kind of a moral truth. Otherwise, there is no right and wrong. And so that's where Catholic history textbooks are so important. So go check out Catholic Textbook Project. It's great. I'm happy to be a part of it. Some of my friends, by the way, are homeschooling moms, and they're the fact checkers and the writers. And I get to write the teacher manuals for a couple of them. So we're working on this together, editors, and it's a great project. So that's that. Peanut Butter and Grace blog is now defunct, sadly, but it was a very good group of people doing fun things like arts and crafts for kids and faith and the saints, and kind of coming together in gentle for parents. I have to think for a minute. Jerry Winley Doust was the head of that project, and he has since wound up it. But you can find some of my Peanut Butter and Grace blogs on my 8 Hobbits website. If you're interested, you can check them out.
Yeah, thank you.
There's a couple articles in there.
What I've learned as well, like you said, sometimes we start with certain projects that we love, but because of circumstances, other things come up and other things kind of die off. So I've learned that myself in the work that I do too. And also you're helping me just listening to your experience as an author, because I will admit to you that I am actually having my first book published this year within a matter of weeks. And the book is called, not that this show is about me, about my work, but the book is called Love and Care for the Marginalized. So you can learn about, if anybody's watching and they want to learn about my book, which in a matter of weeks you'll see on andesantis.com. It's not on Amazon yet, but it's 40 reflections for Catholics on making outreach to marginalized. And when we think of that, we think of maybe the homeless or someone who's suicidal or someone who's being kind of marginalized because of certain, you know, aspects, whether it be race or religion, whatever it is. But it's really about how those marginalized people are really in our everyday lives. I mean, they're people that we know, they're people in our own families. They're people in our own extended
Right.
families. They're people that we go to church with
That's so
and we
important.
see every Sunday. So, so anyway,
Mhm.
I just want to thank you because I'm learning so much from you about that authorship as I'm just entering into it, and I'm grateful to be a part
Mhm.
of this. So, but anyway, now I wanted to ask you if there was anything, any kinds of call to action that's going on in your own life right now, whether it be something going on this year or something to do with your writing.
That's a great question, Ann. Thanks. Yeah, there's a couple of things. Praying for people. I think it's a lot more of the people with depression from COVID. This is going to be kind of a second nationwide pandemic, unfortunately. People of all ages who've been cooped up for too long or haven't had their medical needs met because they've stayed home. And praying for them is good. I just recently discovered the green scapular, which is for, especially for addicts, alcoholics. You can pray it for them because you're supposed to give it to people and ask them to pray it with you. But as we know, there are a lot of really angry atheists out there. My brother's one of them, sadly. And he will not pray it with me. So I'm going to do it for him. The devotion from Mary says if you pray this one prayer every night, she will give the addict special graces or the atheist special graces. And so I think that's really important.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and just I learn about things. I'm still learning. You know, I became Catholic at 19, but I literally learn something new every day about our faith. It's wonderful. And finding a saint. You know, oddly enough, I was in a kind of a little strange RCIA program with not very many people, and I never got to pick a saint. So I chose a patron saint later. I thought, well, if my kids get to do it, I need to do it, and I chose Saint Michael. So Saint Michael's my patron saint.
Oh,
And I
that's
thought,
great.
at the time, it was really as a sort of a dark place, and I thought, well, if you're going to fight evil, go for the top guy, right? Go the head archangel, the soldier. So Saint Michael is my patron saint, so I pray that prayer every day.
That's beautiful.
He's helped me a lot with a lot of different things.
I have to mention regarding Saint Michael, of my own little small personal story there too, is that my daughter Elaine, her middle name is Michelle, and her birthday is September 29th. And when she was born, I wasn't aware. I didn't think of the connection between Michelle, Michael, September 29th. I had a lot of people say to me, oh, did you pick that middle name because of Saint Michael? But as it turned out, no, I wasn't thinking that, but it worked out great. Yeah.
I have a funny story. Actually, Kent and I got married on the feast of Our Lady of the Rosary, October 7th. And I didn't find out about that until later. And then we started praying a family rosary. And that's kind of interesting too. Since God works in mysterious ways.
Isn't it? Yeah, it's really interesting. So tell us, is there anything else going on this year, even next year? I know 2022, you know, it's just around the corner in some ways, right? We're halfway through this year almost. So, so tell us, like, is there anything that you're planning to do that we should take a look out for on your website, or any other calls to action?
Yes, I'm hoping that we need to publish more books, but we'll see how it goes. It's kind of slow going right now. But I would keep an eye on Perpetual Publishing in the store. Jeannie has things organized beautifully where there's children's books, adults books, books for homeschooling. You can look it up by category and see if we have new ones, new things that we do that will come up periodically. And I'm also doing some interviews with people now, Catholic interviews with Catholic Christian artists. And I just did one on Stephen Smart, a British actor from the UK, who's doing this one-man show on Oscar Mark. It's called I Am Mark, if you look it up online. And it's through CMAX TV. And he's brilliant. So I got to interview him online with email exchanges, and posted that on my blog as well at 8hobbits.com. So there are some fun things coming up like that. I hope you guys can read later and just kind of keep an eye on it. And if you know anyone who is already an established graphic artist or a book designer, I would love to talk to them. Jeannie and I would both love to talk to them probably. So they can email me. My email, by the way, is erinbroestl@gmail.com. That's my professional email. So I'll go ahead and put that out there because I know a lot of people want to be published. A lot of people have that artist in them that's dying to get out. And we can't help everybody, but I can at least answer questions for you if you're interested or if anyone else is interested. So feel free.
I'm glad you mentioned it on the show because, you just never know, because not only is the show on Fiat Ministry Network, which I do want to ask people who are watching right now to please do like the Fiat Ministry Network page on Facebook. And it's also on Patchwork Heart Ministry on YouTube, on Podbean, on Apple Podcasts. So please do subscribe to Patchwork Heart Ministry and to this show, to Journeys in Faith. Actually, Journeys in Faith has its own page too. You can like that as well. And so thank you. And it's a way for people to, get the word out for you too, Erin, about this idea that you just said about artists, because, a lot of people just graduated from college, right? And there's some young people out there that might be watching, or parents or grandparents that, your grandchildren or your child is a great artist and would love to do something like this. So just get in touch with Erin again, is it erinbroestl@gmail.com?
Yep.
Right?
That's
okay.
Me.
Very good. Very good.
Yep.
So I wondered, I think you did so well based on the conversation that we had before, you and your husband and the kids, with holding on to your own faith during the pandemic last year, because it was tough for a lot of us, in your state, my state, not for part of that year, not being able to get to Mass. Do you have any words of advice for parents or for families out there who are still coming through from last year and maybe getting everybody back to Mass, whether it be their family or extended family or their friends? Any words of advice about trying to get back to that normalcy?
Yeah, Kent and I are both struggling with that still. It's not normal. We haven't had coffee hour in a year. And it was actually my brother-in-law came to church with us before the pandemic. And that is what he noticed, was that the Catholic coffee hour that we have every week, people were not on their phones. They were acting around like adults. And he was blown away by that, because now in the office or on an airplane, everybody's on their phones, nobody's talking. I just think we need to find ways to reconnect. So if you have friends who don't want to come back to the church for whatever reason, reach out to them, see if they're struggling, see if they need a babysitter, see if one of their kids is sick or in the hospital or something, and ask them what you can do to help. Because we all want to help each other. And sometimes you can't get people to come back to church until you deal with the issues that they're really facing. And it's hard. And I know a lot of people are so lukewarm about church. Maybe you don't go to a very nice one. Maybe you don't have any good music. Maybe you have nothing to look forward to for going back. And you can church shop and look around for really true, faithful, devout Catholics. And even if you have to drive for an hour, go to that church. But you can also work to try to correct and help your own church. If you don't have a parish musician, try and find one. Find a college kid who wants to sing and be a cantor, or somebody good who can encourage people to come to church. In church. And I can't wait till we can miss again, because trying to teach the kids our Latin prayers in church without missals is a little hard every week, especially the early readers. So I can't wait till we get the books back in the pews. We're in Ohio, and so a lot of our restrictions have been pretty tough. So I hope that's good advice. Reach out to your friends, because your friends are still there, even if you haven't seen them for nearly 2 years now, for whatever reason, and COVID being the main one. They're still there, and they're probably still struggling, because we're all still struggling with stuff. So reach out.
Amen. Very, very, very good advice. So thank you. And also, I thought, we're going to be ending the show in about 5 minutes or so. And I'm sure that we have some people watching who are interested in writing, and maybe they do have some kind of a talent there, and they would like to get involved, whether it be a book author or even just a blog or something like that. Would you have anything to say to them? Because, you've been so successful at it all these years, and maybe there's somebody who's interested in their faith and would love to express that through writing.
I've had a lot of help with my stuff. Jeannie's helped me more than I can ever say, more than I ever thank for. But I found out that pretty much every author has to have an author webpage now. So if you don't have one, start one. Start doing the research, spending even 10 or 20 minutes a night reading out whether you want WordPress or Wix site or whatever you want to do, and you can start blog writing. If you've already written a bunch of stuff, that is your portfolio, and you can put it up on your website. So you have a website and you can edit it and change it as much as you want. I did that with some of my envoy writing. I even have some poetry I need to throw up on my blog and things that I want to come up there to put up there. And then when I have new things, I post my blog. You have to have an author page. Somebody has to be able to find you. And it should have an easy name. And since my last name, Broestl, is pretty hard to spell, it fits because there's a lot of Tolkien fans out there. And I get fans from all over the world now who are Tolkien fans. They find that way. And then, oh, Catholic. And then you have to learn how to do tagging. And that's really important too, because for each article you write, for example, use the Stefan Smart article. It's on theater, it's on Catholicism, it's on the Gospel of Mark. You have to do hashtag in the website programming. When you post it, there's a place to put tags. And that's how people find you on internet search engines. And I put his name, and I put the UK, and I put CMAC TV, and I put children, one-man show, theater, because he does a one-man show with minimal props. So any words, all those SEO words, search engine optimization, I'm learning that it's a slow process for me because I'm a busy mom, but I'm learning how to do that. And Catholic fiction is a tag, Catholic children's books is a tag. And for your book, it would probably be marginalized people, homeless, addiction, Catholic addiction, recovery. All those words have to go in the tag as part of your article that you post, or people cannot find it. So be creative, and you can come up with 50 to 100 tags, but you have to post through everything so that people can find you. So that's my best advice.
No, that's excellent advice, because everybody has to start somewhere, right? And it can be simple, really. It can be very, very simple, the way that you get involved in it and how it develops, right? And so that's wonderful.
You can branch out and do anything too. If you're an author or an editor or an artist, even the artists we know, they all have beautiful websites. They put their work up there. It is your portfolio to showcase what you're doing. And you can always springboard too, because I'm kind of an eclectic writer, and I've written, and interviews, fiction, and poetry and things like that. So I put it all up there when I can.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I love having you as a guest on this show. And like I said, you were also a guest on Sowing Hope with Bill Snyder and I on Patchwork Heart Ministry. I think you're going to come back again. I hope so, to our shows, because you're a lot of fun to host.
Thanks.
Sure.
Appreciate it. So fun to talk to you.
Yeah, you too. Now, I want to, again, one more time, is to let you know to go to 8hobbits.com, perpetuallightpublishing.com. We do have to end this show. Do you have any final words before we close?
No, just thank you. And thank you to everybody listening. Just keep on plugging and praying for each other. We all need prayers every day. It's what holds us up. So pray for me and Jeannie and everybody at Perpetual Light Publishing. And that would be great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So everyone, we will see you here next week, next Friday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, on Journeys in Faith with Ann DeSantis. God bless.
Journeys of Faith is a production of Fiat Ministry Network and Patchwork Heart Ministry. For more information about Journeys of Faith, email info@fiatministrynetwork.tv. And be sure to friend, follow, and like us on social media. Just search Journeys in Faith with Ann DeSantis.